On Radio 97, it's time to learn a couple of things about the law. Our resident lawyer, Despina Priala of boutique law firm Priala Legal in Runaway Bay, with us every Thursday. She brings her legal expertise by providing some general advice on the latest hot topics. She has experience that spans more than a quarter of a century. Yes, a quarter of a century in the area of property and commercial law. She also prepares wills as part of estate planning and litigation. She's with us once again. Hello, Despina.
Hi Wayne, hi Brooke, how are you?
Good morning, Despina. We are good, thank you. How are you?
Good.
That's good. Alrighty, we're going to jump straight into it because you have had a few practical issues, I guess I should say, popping up over the past few weeks to do with contracts, Airbnbs, smoke alarm certificates, pest and building reports. These things just keep on coming up. So we're going to chat through some of these issues so we can avoid them being big ones in the future. What's been happening recently?
Yes, so you said it. So it's the issues that keep coming up that I want to talk about today, because we do this every day of the week, and these issues are coming up more and more. They're more prevalent, and we're having to deal with them all the time, more than before, and we're having to argue with people really where we shouldn't be having to argue with people over certain issues. So I thought I'd raise it because this is all about educating all of the listeners out there when they're buying or selling property. That's what it's all about. And hopefully everyone gets proper legal representation before they buy or sell property. And we provide that, and not everybody does. And it is about getting that right advice before you sign a contract, getting your contract checked. So we do this all the time. We know what to look for, and it's really critical. So people out there listening to me says, yes, we've heard this all before. Maybe they're thinking, what's the big deal? I don't know. You know, I'm only selling a home or buying a property. It's supposed to be simple, isn't it? And it's really not simple anymore. So, and we just have too many laws and regulations that cover so many things and aspects. And the whole point is to protect people when they're buying and selling property from the get-go. It's not about creating complexity or making things more difficult than what they need to be. It's actually about protecting people's interests. That's what it's all about, and that's what we do. So I thought that we would go through some issues, 3 or 4 issues that we see circulating and have been for the last, say, 2-3 months, that are still coming up all the time. So, one of the big issues, it's a small issue really that should be dealt with relatively simple, but it can turn into a big issue, and that is the risk and insurance. Okay, so in Queensland, and New South Wales, under the REIQ contract in Queensland, it says, look, the risk passes to buyers from the date of the contract. So what does that mean? It means that if something happens to the property as a buyer, you're responsible. So if it gets damaged, if there's a flood, fire, someone breaks in, vandalizes the place, you're responsible, because that's what the contract says in the standard terms. So that means you have to get insurance from the get-go as a buyer. And we tell buyers that absolutely from day one, that you are now responsible. But what happens if the property's tenanted? So what if there's a long-term tenancy, like a 6 or 12 months, 2 years tenancy? Or what if the house is on Airbnb? So you will probably find on your realestate.com listings that they won't be stating that it's on Airbnb currently. And we don't typically find that in the representation. So the point to make is that whether it's a long-term tenancy that's in place as a tenancy agreement, or with the Airbnb issue, the point is this, that whoever's in the property, whoever's renting it, or the Airbnb person, they're in there because the seller's allowed it. It's got nothing to do with the buyer. So there's no relationship between buyer and tenant, or buyer and Airbnb person. So the risk has to stay with the seller. Now, unless you change that in your contract before the contract is signed, that's never going to happen. So you can imagine a buyer, why am I taking the risk on for a tenant or an Airbnb person I have no relationship with? And you'd never have that happen. However, it does happen because buyers don't get their contracts vetted. Agents don't think about this, right, because it's a legal issue. And then you've got someone buying a property under contract that's either Airbnb'd or has a tenant, and the buyer is going to be responsible if the tenant does something. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So that can be easily fixed by changing that from the get-go. So that's one big issue that we've seen continuing to come up all the time.
I think, Despina, if that was the issue, and you were buying a house and it was on Airbnb. It certainly sounds like something you would want to know about right at the start.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, you wouldn't want it to just disappear.
And this is the thing. So we would want our clients, first of all, to tell us everything about a property before they go under contract, because we ask them questions. If you don't tell us, we don't know. It's not in the realestate.com ad, so we don't know. And the agents obviously should be telling buyers, hey, this is on Airbnb, but then the agents will only know if the seller tells them. Yep. So there needs to be full disclosure all round, 100%.
Yeah, unbelievable. All right, and moving on then, smoke alarm certificates.
Smoke alarms are big. So since the 20th of Jan this year, we had the new REIQ contracts come in Queensland, which say that if the property's not smoke alarm compliant, then the buyer can deduct 0.15% off the purchase price at settlement. So
0.15%.
Yeah.
Ah, wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So it's not a small amount like $5-10. It's actually, and typically we see the calculation, the cost that gets deducted is probably, it would definitely cover the cost of getting it compliant and then some. So, and that's probably why they came up with that figure. But the issue we're finding is that in the REIQ contract, there's a box that says, is the house got smoke alarm compliance? And you tick yes or no. Now, typically all contracts are ticked yes. Probably there's no thought given to that, I don't know. But as a buyer, we've asked for the actual evidence of that. So we want the certificate from the expert that comes around and says it's compliant. And we've had a lot of people being resilient to that and saying, look, we don't have to give you that certificate. And I said, yes, you do. And they said, no, we've ticked the box. I said, that doesn't mean anything. And the point I want to get across to people is, as buyers, you are entitled to ask for that certificate, 100%. So we've had to argue with other lawyers, and they're wrong and we're right, because the Fire and Emergency Services Act, 1990 in Queensland, says that with these changes that came into force on the 1st of Jan with the new smoke alarm compliance requirements, it's about making sure that the house now complies under the new rules, given whatever class that they are at. So by ticking a box, you don't know if it's actually compliant. You need to see the certificate from the expert that says, yes, I've inspected the property, yes, it's compliant, or it's compliant until this date. And often they have expiry dates. Do you want to check the expiry date on the certificates? I actually had a certificate given to me by another party where the date was blanked out and the expiry date was last month. And I said, hang on, guys, you're giving me a certificate. There's a few things missing here. So you got to read the certificate as well when you get it.
Don't just get it and put it in a drawer. It's so funny because you compare it to, say, buying a vehicle. We know that you have to get a safety certificate. You know you have to. Of course, you tick things off, but you have to have the professional to come and go, yep, this is safe. And it's so funny that we look at a home that is bajillions more than probably your car. And you're like, oh, no, I tick the box. It's all sweet. Just take it.
So, and the point to make here is that it's not something you have to argue. The contract says that you get to have that deduction at settlement. So if you can't prove that it's compliant, then it's going to be deducted one way or the other. So it's not a request, it's you get that deduction unless you give me the evidence. And that's how people need to understand, that's how the contract works, and that's what buyers need to understand. So that's another issue that was circulating. And look, another interesting issue is easements. So if you have encumbrances over your property, a good example, easements. Now, easements are typically shown on your title search. So if it's shown on the title search, and not all easements are registered, so they won't appear on the title, but typically they are. So in the contract, there's a section that's called encumbrances, and you're supposed to list exactly what the title search shows. So if it says easement number blah blah in favor of blah blah, whatever it is, the details, you have to copy it word for word, because that's called disclosure as a seller, right? So you've got to put it in there. Now, I had a contract given to me this week by an agent, and it said the wording exactly this. It said, an easement running down the side of the property and at the back of the property. And I said, what does this mean? I said,
be a bit more specific, thank you. Yeah.
So I said, give me the title search. So yes, I've got the title search. That's not what the title says, of course. The title had a far more descriptive, legalistic description of what the easement was or is. And then we inserted that into the contract before it was signed. Now, if you don't disclose all these, it's potentially a right of termination for a buyer. So it's just little things that we know what to look for to make sure that sellers and buyers are protected. Get that contract vetted. Do not sign it. Get it checked by a solicitor before you sign. Let us look after it if we can, or have someone else that, got that experience to do that for you. It's so important.
And coming up next, the big difference between New South Wales binding death benefits compared to the rest of Australia. The laws are surprisingly quite different. That's coming up in Talking Law, segment 2. Don't go anywhere.